Hi, welcome to Oakland Is. I'm your host, Yasmin Michele. Our guest today is Dr. Barbara Cannon. Dr. Cannon is an exemplary educator with a compassion for community. Welcome to the show, Dr. Cannon.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Right. Dr. Cannon, recently, as you are an educator, as I said, and have pursued many educational endeavors and working with the community around issues around education as well. Recently, there was a study that showed that schools are more segregated now than they were since Brown, the Supreme Court decision of Brown versus Board of Education, which of course made things supposedly separate but equal, and abolished the segregation. So tell us a little bit about you, meaning that your educational journey coming from Big Sandy, Texas, to getting your PhD. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think you're right to bring up Big Sandy, Texas, because even though it was called Big Sandy, it was very small. Okay. There were only about 200 people in this little town. And we had to ride a bus for about 14 miles to get to it because we lived closer to another town called Gladewater, Texas. And so in order to go to the high school there, we had to cross over the line. Otherwise, we'd have to keep going. I think I was going to have to go back to Big Sandy. But they really didn't have a high school in Big Sandy. Okay. So we crossed over to
And when you say they didn't have a high school, did they, obviously, well, I would assume because this is pre-civil rights.
That's right.
Again,
integration.
Brown versus Board of Education, yes. So integration. So again, talk a little bit about that. How did that happen? What were the black schools like?
Oh, yes. This was kind of, you might say, almost like paradise because we had you might say, access to everything that led to a good education.
And what do you mean by that?
Okay, the teachers were there were high demands and expectations of them by the principal. He was like Napoleon, you might say. Okay. He was very short, but also very demanding. Okay. And it demanded excellence of the teachers in doing whatever they were supposed to do. We had a wonderful librarian who also taught classes. She taught our typing classes, so really? That was another thing I had in high school. We had learning how to do all kinds of things. Being in the marching band, and it was a concert band as well. So I was persuaded to play the flute and the piccolo because nobody else wanted to play it.
So there was and you mentioned about this expectation of excellence. And,
yes.
And as it differs now, did most of the educators stay in the community?
They
live
did.
in your community?
They did. They were like our next door neighbors, and they came to our house for dinner on special occasions. I remember how my mother used to bring the principal of our school in Big Sandy and his wife on Christmas for Christmas dinner. And that was such a good experience, being able to have the participation and association with our parents and our educators.
Right.
And our educators felt like they could come out to our home at any time and just drop in and visit.
Oh, beautiful.
My homemaking teacher was just amazing. Her way of working was to help us learn to sew and make our own garments, but also how to set a table correctly with the forks and everything in the right place. And we learned how to do all kinds of things that had to do with appropriate eating habits.
And so with that, with learning how to do things appropriately, so that it seems like the family, school, and community were all integrated.
That's right.
So this must have been just a wonderful experience for your journey to college.
Yes.
So can you talk about your journey to college, going from, say, your undergrad work to your PhD?
Yeah, because what happened in our school, in Gladewater in high school, we competed with all kinds of, we would go to competitions like essay writing. I participated in that, debating contest, spelling contest. This was on a statewide level, and we would go to those every year. They called them, forgotten the name that they had for them, but they were competitions. Also, we had quartets, musical groups that would sing and compete, and in the marching band, we would go to Prairie View University every year and bring back the top awards called Superior or Excellence.
Really? So speaking of those awards and things, and when you mentioned about the university, can you tell us where you did your undergrad?
Yes. The segregated schooling in Big Sandy and Gladewater had come to an end. I wanted to go to an integrated school, so I came to San Francisco State.
Okay.
I had an uncle who had graduated from there in history. His major was history. And he indicated that all of the musicians who taught in the music department were with the San Francisco Symphony. So that was a motivation for me to go there. So I wound up majoring in instrumental music.
Okay.
And that was a good experience. And so when I graduated, I had to give a recital, a senior recital on piano and flute. I chose that option rather than to pass all of the 16 instruments that they required for the different families, because we learned how to play the percussion, the brass, and the woodwinds, and the strings. So it was a very good experience.
And so giving that, that experience, and then I guess that just heightened your experience to continue your education.
Oh, yes.
And so you got your master's. And I know,
Yes.
Can you speak to that?
Yes.
Just your master's and getting your PhD, and where you
Yes.
received both.
Oh, yes. This was San Francisco State for the Master's in Music. And it turns out that in order to get into San Francisco State, initially we had to pass an exam. And I wasn't able to pass it, but I realized that I had sent my transcript to New York for the National Scholarship Fund for Negro students at that time, and asked them for a copy of my transcript, because our high school had burned down and all of the records had been destroyed.
Now, when you mentioned exam, now was this an exam just pertaining to, of course, universities, the entrance exam,
Yes.
but was this a sort of a racially concentrated exam, or was it just for basic
It was for all
reading,
students.
writing?
Yeah, the
and
writing skills
Okay.
were expected. And I can't remember, I think it had to do with the reading and writing. But what I found out is that my transcript came in 2 days after I called for it. And I gave that, and I was admitted immediately, because the transcript spoke to my ability to be successful.
Well, obviously.
They accepted it.
Obviously. And so did you also get your PhD at State as well?
No, after San Francisco State, I wound up I was a French teacher also, because I started majoring in French at San Francisco
Right,
State.
and that brought you, I know that, so this has been a long journey,
Yes.
meaning because we only have about 3 minutes left. I'm so excited, I just want to get it
Yes.
all in. But I know that you also traveled, or you taught at the Sorbonne, or you attended the
Yes.
Sorbonne in Paris.
That's right, I was on a
That's correct.
sabbatical. And these were teachers from all around the world who had come to Paris, to
Right.
the Sorbonne.
Well, listen, we have, we're going to go to a break. I have
Okay.
actually a special situation for you.
Oh, really?
And we'll go to a break. We'll be right back, and we can follow up with that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm your mediator.
I'm really glad we can be adults about this.
Welcome back to this segment of Oakland Is. We're in conversation with Dr. Barbara Cannon, educator. We're also joined by our guest, Jimmy Guy. Jimmy Guy is the creator and executive producer of Oakland Is, and he and Dr. Cannon have had quite the bond for quite a long time. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Right. So you and Dr. Cannon have been friends for, what, over 20 years?
Has it been that long? Yes, I think
It's
so.
been 20, I was calculating just a moment ago.
20-something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yes.
started in 1991.
Okay,
so-
and so can you talk about, and by the way, Dr. Cannon is also executive producer of the show, Oakland Is. So talk a little bit about how you all got together, how you met, and
Well,
the formation of executive producing for the show.
She had a radio show on KJAZ back in the day, and I happened to tune in one day, and there she was. So I got on the show to talk about the Castiliers and what we were doing and the song that we had put out. And she brought me on the show. We played the song. We talked about a lot of things. And then in 1988, she hired me to be her, what is it, administrative assistant, was
That's
it?
right.
Yes, I was the administrative assistant.
Wonderful. So, and I guess the rest is history,
Yeah,
as they
right.
say.
Then one day we were brainstorming rather about how to jumpstart the center there on 87th and East 14th. It was called the Marist College Educational Center. It was an offshoot of the college, of Merritt College. So she was in charge there. So we were just brainstorming ways to, you know, to start some community interest. So I said, well, I reached back and got the old show. Instead of being a musical variety show, it became a half-hour talk show. And that was, we had our debut in April 16th, 1991. Our first guest, I remember Leo Bazille, and the current mayor, Jean Quan, was on it. She was on the school board at that time.
Okay.
And we had two other people whose names I
Wilma
can't.
Chan was also on the school board.
So this union has been for quite a while.
Yes,
And so,
indeed.
can you touch on, either one of you or both, touch on the reason and the importance of community?
Well, I mean, that's the only way that the black people get the news, the real nitty-gritty news.
And that's
is
what I'm
through
saying, black
Black
folks, yeah.
television, and we don't have very much of that. Without Oakland is, I don't know what they'd do. Wouldn't have any news from the black hand side at all. So, you know, we remember Fred Davis Jackson, who was one of our chief people. He was also a host on this show, and he did a whole lot of community service.
That's correct.
So Oakland has come up with the Fred Davis Jackson Humanitarian Award.
And this is the first annual.
That's the first one, and we want Dr. Cannon to be the first one to receive it.
Oh,
Be the
my
recipient
goodness.
of
This is
the
the
Oakland
Fred Davis Jackson Humanitarian Award. It's now yours.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
Yes, indeed.
Mr. Guy.
For meritorious service, 23 plus years and still going strong.
Yes. Well, you know,
Yes.
the thing that is so sacred about this is the word humanitarian.
Yes.
And it's an annual award that you're
Yes,
planning
indeed.
to make available.
That's right.
Because that center closed down because for years they had been trying to close it down.
Right.
And which center is that?
The Merritt College Community Education Center
Okay.
on East 14th
Yes.
Street in East Oakland. And it was there for years. So that's when they moved the college to the Hill, the main college. And they left this on the community. And there were I think there were two other community centers as well.
Right.
But they eventually, all of them were closed down because they felt it was more, I guess you could use the budget more effectively by putting everything on campus.
Right.
But then we offered classes at Castlemont High School.
Okay. And speaking of that, and when you're talking about budget, and as my opening statement to you is that now they're saying that the schools are more segregated than ever before, or since, I would say not ever before, but since the Brown versus Board of Education. In addition to that, there's also been another study, I think that came out this week or last week, of saying that only 30% of incoming freshmen in the UC system, 30% are out of state or out of country. You know, so that students right here in California aren't able to, you know, to get into the UC system. So there is a disparity. And it seems like it's happening more and more. So, you know, we only have a few more minutes, but I just wanted to say that I thank both of you for your community endeavors and for your mentorship with me as well. And Dr. Cannon, again, congratulations on your award. You're certainly worthy.
Well,
and we
this
thank
is-
you so much and
thank you.
appreciate it.
It is a surprise and a great honor because Fred Davis Jackson, I felt, was so well known and
Yes.
he deserved so much because they named a street after him in North Richmond because of the work that he did there.
Right, and with that, thank you for watching. We'll be right back with the segment of Oakland Is.
Tried to tell him, son, stay off them streets. If you're out in the street, what do you make?
The song you just heard is Bang Bang by Mr. Douard Washington. Mr. Washington is an actor, an entertainer, and songwriter. Welcome to Oakland Is,
Thank you.
Mr. Washington.
Thank you very much.
So I understand that you're from the Bay Area?
Yes, born in San Francisco, raised in Richmond, and made home in Oakland.
Okay, great. So did you take your acting in school and how did you learn to songwriting?
Well, as far as acting, there was nothing offered in school. I was actually asked to attend a acting class while on the playground. And I went in, the lady recruited me to start Saturday classes, and so I would go to Saturday acting classes while everyone else played baseball.
And so is this elementary, junior high, high school, or
Through
what?
elementary, junior high, and high school.
Oh, wonderful. And then so you got the bug.
Yes, yes, caught the bug, and that was it.
Bug. Okay. So with that, so it was a lack of art or culture in the schools at that time.
Absolutely. Growing up in the Richmond School District, there were, we had a minimal education, if you will. The theory was to just get us through, not to, they weren't worried about your academic level. It was getting you through 1st through 12th grade, so they could get the money.
So to speak, so to speak, like it is now.
Absolutely.
Okay, with the lack of cultural arts and things like that in the schools.
Right, and most of my education came from outside of the school district. I went to a school called the School of Pride that was organized by Reverend Anthony Burris back in the 60s.
And tell us a little bit about that school.
Well, he would teach us English, math, we'd have debate, and he would teach us poems and some of the finer things about life.
Okay. So what are you doing? I know that you have, it's a poem that you want to recite for us, for our audience a little later on.
Yes.
In the segment, but you also are working on some things presently.
Right. I have.
Can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. I have a blues band. It's the Love Light Blues Band. We appear at Jeffrey's Inner Circle the second Friday of every month. Right now, we're doing festivals. We'll be at Vallejo on this coming Friday, and we're basically traveling around. We've got the new CD out, simply entitled "The Love Light Blues Band."
Okay. So, and speaking of blues, oftentimes you see a lack of black folks playing blues, but even with that, even with R&B and soul music now, it was just the most recent Billboard Awards. Robin Thicke won for Best R&B Song, and Justin Timberlake won for Best R&B Artist. So speaking of that, do you do any mentoring, or do you see young people coming to want to learn about how to play blues, how to sing blues, or anything like that? Because we've really been concentrated with rap for a long time, and too long.
Right. One of the reasons that I have dedicated my life to the blues is because for so long, we as a people frowned on our own music. Now it's to the point where there are very few African American people in the blues.
And back to that, what do you mean? Can you explain, not can you explain, please explain why you say that we were, did you say ashamed?
Right. Well,
speak to that, please.
The migration from the South, many black people coming from the South, they looked at it as slave music or field music. They didn't want to hear some of the things that brought them from the cotton field to the city.
Okay.
And it's just that the blues is the basis of all of your music, from gospel to jazz and on. And so my goal is just to keep playing, keep introducing that sound to the masses.
To the masses, great. So can you, or will you be singing, or will you be playing something for us a little later, or you did bring along a CD or so?
Yes,
that
there's two songs on our CD. One is called Bang Bang, and I think you heard that at the beginning. And we have another called I'll Remember Your Name.
Now, let me ask you something. They were, get your opinion rather, on this. Most recently, this a woman, African-American woman, who is one of the executive board, I guess, with the FCC. And she talked about the lack of radio stations and definitely TV, but radio stations owned and operated by black folks, and it's less than 100 in the United States. So speaking to that, and you very rarely hear blues or really R&B or soul music on the radio. You either hear the old school R&B or rap. So and so with that, they're saying that, you know how it used to be old school. If you have a hit, you have a cut, you could take it to a DJ, you know, and the DJ will play it. But the conversation was, the discussion was about the lack of new music for our people, and in particular, an artist was talking about that he wanted to cut a song about President Mandela, but was unable to, you know, from the record label or, you know, this sort of thing. So a lot of artists are now going independent. So can you speak to that? And if you are an independent artist as well.
Well, the fact of the matter is that we cannot depend on public radio or on, you know, the television stations to do anything for us. You know, it's kind of like you've got to get out and do it yourself. Right now, we have a wonderful CD out, but there's only maybe 3 stations that will play it. One in Colorado, and a couple here locally. And basically, nothing's changed.
Nothing. So so right there, that's a wonderful segue into when you're saying that nothing has changed. You have a poem that you would like to recite. Can you please tell our audience the name of the poem?
The poem is called "A Man Is Just a Man."
And why you would want to recite it for
the reason I am taking it into schools and talking to young people about it is that while this is 2014, this poem was given to me in the 1960s. And as I review the circumstances for which it was given and that it talks to, very little has changed when it comes to our people.
Okay. So when you say what it talks to, well, talk to our audience.
Okay.
Recite it for our audience, please.
There are those who look at the American black man and say that he is contented and at peace with his fellow man. But we say to you, do not be deceived by the smiles on our faces, for our memory is just as good as our money. Millions look upon my skin, a black man, they say. He is warm, he's full, he's smiling, so therefore he must be happy. Be not deceived by what you see, for the half has not been told. You have raped and robbed, lynched and mobbed my race since the days of old. Be not deceived, for God is not mocked, and the words of truth you know. You can rape and rob, lynch and mob, but you must reap what you sow. Now, I would like to make this mention to my dear old Uncle Sam, simply calling the attention to the folk of whom I am. Though I am discriminated, Jim Crowed on the Southern trains, I am really educated, not my instincts, but my brain. Now you say, what I have you gave me, and that was very kind and nice, but did you not first enslave me and force me to pay your price? Those were the days of my disaster, and every time you spoke, I ran. But today, you're not my master, for a man is just a man.
It's beautiful. It is simply Fabulous.
Thank you.
And the author is unknown.
It's an unknown author. It was passed on to me by Reverend Burris, who ran the School of Pride, where I learned English, math, etc. And I've used that as an audition piece as I've gone through auditions for plays, etc.
And so, and speaking about being deceived, this whole issue around Donald Sterling, the Clippers owner, and
Yes.
that sort of thing, it struck me that folks talked about that they had known for such a long time, and that it took recording for the black players to even acknowledge what was going on. It's as if that they were still, it's still this plantation mentality.
Right. Let me just say this.
The deception seems to be running rampant, and we have about 1 minute left. Do you see us as a nation, as a people, that we are continually to being deceived on a mass level?
Yes, while there are some of us who get through sports, some through education, even the president, the masses still are in a situation where we've made very little progress, and the deception is still there.
Thank you for watching this segment of Oakland Is, and our guest, Dr. Barbara Cannon and Mr. D. Washington. And we'll see you next time. Peace and best wishes.
You're working 20 years on a job with little pay. They give you a gold watch on retirement day. 2 weeks after you're gone, they'll be calling you, oh, what's his name? You know why?